All right, ready to dive deep into the teachings of Sri Ramana Maharshi.
I am. Always up for some wisdom exploration.
We're going deep into Words of Grace, a collection of his teachings, really focusing on self-inquiry and spiritual instruction. It's going to be like uncovering a roadmap to understanding ourselves, the world around us, and maybe even the path to liberation.
A roadmap. I like that.
I'm fascinated, honestly. Let's see what we find together. The first thing that jumps out at me from Words of Grace is this question: who am I? And it's not just some philosophical riddle.
Oh,
It
wow.
feels like a starting point for a real journey.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's like the cornerstone of self-inquiry.
Hmm.
Ramana Maharshi is pushing us to go deeper than the surface,
Yeah.
beyond just our job titles and where we live, to really get to that core of our being.
And the way he suggests doing that is this process of negation, right? I am not my body. I am not my thoughts.
Yeah.
It's about peeling back those layers to see what's underneath.
Exactly. Yeah. It's like peeling an onion, except maybe instead of tears, we find liberation. What's really fascinating is that it's not about intellectualizing. It's about direct experience, that aha moment.
Okay, but how do we actually do that? It's easy to say, I'm not my thoughts, but then, well, the next thought pops up.
Yeah.
And it feels like a bit of a trap.
Oh, for sure. The mind is a tricky thing. It really is.
It is.
Ramana Maharshi uses this analogy of a rope and a serpent. Like, imagine you're walking in the dark and you see a rope, but you mistake it for a snake.
Yeah.
You'd be terrified, right?
Yeah.
But then when you realize it's just a rope, the fear disappears instantly. Poof.
So our thoughts are like that mistaken snake, creating fear and anxiety when we believe them to be real.
Exactly. That phenomenal world, everything we see and hear and touch can be like that rope mistaken for a snake.
Right.
It's only when we can really see through the illusion that we can start to see things as they truly are.
It makes the mind seem even more powerful, which is kind of scary.
Oh, it is powerful. Absolutely. And that's why he emphasizes understanding its nature. He talks about the mind as a bundle of thoughts, with the root being the I thought. So it's this constant chatter in our heads, like, I did this, I want that, I'm worried about this, always on.
Okay, so if we can quiet that, I thought, we can unravel the illusion.
Yeah, it's not about forcing the mind to be silent, though. It's more about shifting our attention.
So how do we do that? Do we just, like, try not to think about ourselves? I don't know if I'm good at that.
Well, it's not about forcing, it's about practice. And Ramana Maharshi talks about different techniques that can help.
Ooh, like what? Are we talking, chanting on a mountaintop?
He mentions those, chanting and meditation. But he also brings up something as simple as regulating our diet, eating what's called sattvic food.
Sattvic food? What is that?
So it's about focusing on pure, simple foods. Fruits, vegetables, whole grains, things that nourish the body and mind without kind of weighing us down. It's like choosing the right fuel for our inner engine.
Okay, so no more late-night pizza binges for enlightenment. Got it. What else?
Breath control.
Yeah.
Pranayama.
Right.
It's powerful for calming the nervous system and focusing the mind.
It's about paying attention to your breath and maybe doing some breathing exercises.
Exactly. And what he really emphasizes is that these techniques, diet, breath control, meditation, they're all aids. They're not ends in themselves. They're tools to help us get ready for this process of self-inquiry.
So like we're gathering our supplies before we set off on an expedition? I like that.
He uses an analogy similar to that. He compares it to a pearl diver, using stones for weight to reach the depths for a pearl.
Oh, I see. So we need that dedication and focus to dive deep within ourselves and find the pearl of, self-realization.
Exactly. It takes effort, takes commitment, but the rewards are huge.
Okay, I'm feeling inspired, but I'm still kind of stuck on this concept of self-surrender. It seems counterintuitive, If we're trying to discover our true selves, why surrender?
It is a paradox, isn't it? But it's actually about surrendering the illusion of control. The idea that we are the ones in charge. Imagine you're a passenger on a train. Why would you try to carry your heavy luggage on your lap when the train's already carrying it?
Oh, that's a good point.
So
So it's about letting go of that burden of trying to control everything and trusting in something bigger.
yes, it's recognizing that we are held and supported by something much greater than ourselves. It's about releasing, letting go, flowing with existence.
Powerful image. Okay, so we've covered a lot. We talked about that question, who am I? We talked about negating those layers, the mind as this tool and a trickster, and even touched on some practical techniques. What an amazing start to our deep dive.
Yeah. There's so much depth to these teachings, and we've only just scratched the surface.
I know, now I'm even more curious to see what else awaits us.
Well, get ready. Things are about to get really mind-bending. Next, we're going to dive into the nature of reality itself, ready to question everything you thought you knew.
Bring it on.
So remember, we were talking about the mind, right? Being like this instrument of knowledge, but also the creator of illusion.
Yeah.
Well, this next part really dives into that. Ramana Maharshi suggests that essentially this world we experience, it's like a dream-like illusion.
Wait, so are you saying like this whole thing, my coffee cup, my to-do list, it's all just a dream?
Not exactly.
Yeah.
It's not that the world doesn't exist, but it's more about how we experience it, how we perceive it. It's all filtered through our minds. Have you ever had a dream like that felt so real while you were in it?
Oh, totally. I once dreamt I won an Olympic medal for like underwater basket weaving,
Wow.
and it felt so real. I even woke up disappointed it wasn't actually true.
Exactly. Both our waking experience and our dreams, they're both projections of the mind. The difference is when we wake up from a dream, we realize it was an illusion. But with this waking dream, we're so caught up in it.
Right.
We just take it for granted, think it's solid reality.
So we're kind of all sleepwalking through life. That's a little unsettling.
It can be. But Ramana Maharshi wasn't trying to scare anyone. It was about helping us see the limitations of how we perceive things. How much of what we think is real is actually shaped by our minds.
Okay, so what do we do with that? Like if I walk outside and think really hard, will my car turn into a unicorn?
Huh? Probably not. But recognizing this dreamlike nature, it's a big step. It helps us loosen the grip of that ego, that sense of a separate I that's always trying to control everything, define everything.
Right. He talks about the jiva, right? Is that essentially the ego?
Yeah. The jiva is the ego, the individual self that identifies with the body, the mind. It's like, you see a tiny wave on the surface of the ocean. It thinks it's separate from the vastness below.
And that vastness is the Atman, the supreme self.
Exactly. That supreme self is pure consciousness, the source of everything. It's the ocean itself, containing all those waves, all those individual selves.
So we are all connected then, like drops of water in a giant cosmic pool.
I love that. That's beautiful. And the path to liberation, to true happiness, to freedom, it's about recognizing that connection.
Okay, I'm getting chills. But if we're all part of that supreme self, why do we feel so separate? Why all the struggle, the suffering?
Well, that's the ego's doing, right? It creates that illusion of separation.
Yeah.
The belief that we're these isolated individuals, all competing for happiness, resources, you name it.
It's like we're all wearing these like ego glasses that distort how we see things, make us feel separate from everything and everyone.
Perfect analogy. And self-inquiry is about taking off those glasses, seeing clearly.
So how do we do that? We've talked about things like breath control, diet. Are there other practical things we can try?
He emphasizes a technique called self-abidance. It's about resting in the awareness of I am, but not adding any other qualities, no attributes, just that.
So not I am happy or I am stressed, just I am.
Exactly. Letting go of all that mental chatter, the labels, the judgments, and just being present in that pure awareness of existing.
That sounds incredibly peaceful.
It is.
But also really hard. My mind tends to, it's like a race car.
Oh, yeah. It takes practice for sure, but it's so worth it. Even just a few moments of that self-abundance can bring such a sense of peace, clarity.
Okay, so we're cultivating this awareness with self-abundance, but we also talked about controlling the mind. Do those work together?
He actually compares controlling the mind to restraining an elephant with a chain. It's useful at first to gain some control over its wildness, but the goal isn't to keep the elephant chained up forever.
Ah, I see.
Eventually, you got to drop the chains.
So controlling the mind is like training wheels for enlightenment. Got it.
You could say that. The true goal is to transcend the mind completely, to realize that we are not the mind, but the consciousness that's observing it.
Okay, that's a big jump. So it's not about trying to force the mind to be silent, but to shift our identification from those thoughts to the awareness that's always there.
All right, think of it like watching a movie. We can get caught up in the story, the emotions, but ultimately we know it's just a projection on a screen.
Yeah.
We are not the movie. We are the awareness watching it.
Okay, I think I'm starting to get it. So if we're not the movie, we're the awareness behind it. What does that mean for, how we live our lives?
That, my friend, is where liberation comes in. It's realizing our true nature is pure, unbounded consciousness. waking up from the dream of separation and experiencing that unity that underlies it all.
All right, color me intrigued. Let's unpack this liberation thing a bit more. Is it like floating on a cloud, eating cosmic cotton candy for all eternity?
Well, it might feel that blissful at times, but it's not about escaping the world or becoming some emotionless zombie. It's about experiencing life with this profound sense of peace, clarity, freedom.
So it's not about what's happening around us, but how we relate to it.
Exactly. Letting go of that ego's grip on life, flowing with the current, imagine not being weighed down by anxiety, fear, but moving through life with this, like ease and joy.
Sign me up. But seriously, how do we even begin to approach that kind of freedom?
Remember those techniques: breath control, diet, meditation.
Yeah.
They're not just about calming the mind. They're about purifying the body, creating the right conditions for self-realization.
So it's like we're creating the fertile ground for that seed of awareness to sprout.
Exactly. And these techniques, they're not the goal themselves. They're tools. They're helping us prepare for self-inquiry.
Right. The pearl diver needs wakes to reach the depths. Okay, so let's say we're doing all that, starting to get a handle on the mind. What's the next step? How do we engage in this self-inquiry?
Well, it begins with that question, right? Who am I? But it's not about thinking up an answer. It's about turning our attention inward and directly experiencing the I that's there before all the thoughts, all the concepts.
So not, I am my name, I am my job, but something deeper.
Yes. Something beyond the labels and definitions. It's a pure awareness of being, that I am. That's always present.
That sounds abstract. Is there a way to make it more concrete?
Think about when you first wake up, before any thoughts even come.
Oh.
There's that moment of pure awareness.
Yeah.
You know you exist, but there's no you yet. No name, no story, just pure being.
I think I've had those moments, but they usually disappear once the to-do list starts popping into my head.
That's the mind for you. But with practice, we can learn to access that pure awareness more easily. And that's the starting point for self-inquiry.
So we're not trying to get rid of thoughts, but shift our attention to the space behind them.
You got it. It's like recognizing the sky behind the clouds. The clouds come and go, but the sky is always there.
Okay, that helps. So let's say we're starting to sense this I am awareness. What then? Where do we go from there?
He suggests a simple but powerful practice. Abide in that awareness. Just rest in that feeling of I am. Don't add any other qualities, any attributes.
So not I am happy or I am worried, just pure I am.
Exactly. Letting go of the mental chatter, simply being present in the experience of just being.
And that ultimately leads to liberation.
It's the direct path. By abiding in that I am awareness, we start to dissolve the illusion of separation and experience the unity that underlies everything.
I'm a little mind blown right now.
I know, right?
So much to ponder.
It is a lot. But it's the kind of knowledge that just unfolds gradually, layer by layer as we continue to inquire, to explore.
Well, this deep dive is definitely living up to its name. We've explored this dreamlike nature of reality, the difference between the individual and supreme self, even touched on some techniques for experiencing that pure awareness. I'm really excited to see where we go next.
Well, hold on to your hat, because in this final part, we're going to explore how these teachings can be applied to everyday life. We'll talk about the role of the guru, the meaning of true renunciation, even delve into that mystery of karma.
I'm ready. Bring on the wisdom.
Okay, so we've explored some seriously deep concepts here. The dreamlike nature of reality, the supreme self, pure awareness. Phew, a lot. But I'm curious, how do we actually live this? Does it mean giving up everything and meditating in a cave for the rest of our lives? That's a pretty common misconception. Ramana Maharshi was very clear that liberation is not about escaping the world. It's about embodying the truth of our being in every moment, even while we're, doing the dishes or stuck in traffic.
So it's not about what we're doing, but the mindset we bring to it.
Yes, exactly. He used this example of like a Brahmin actor. The actor might play all kinds of roles on stage, a king, a pauper, a villain, whatever. But they never forget their true identity as a Brahmin.
So we can be engaged in the world, play those roles, but not lose sight of that deeper I am awareness.
That's it. It's about acting from that place of awareness, not from the ego. So making choices from peace and clarity, not fear and desire.
Sounds challenging, but also incredibly liberating. But isn't there a danger of becoming detached, not caring about anything anymore?
That's where this idea of true renunciation comes in. He emphasized that it's not about giving up external things. It's about relinquishing the ego.
So not ditching my possessions or shaving my head, but letting go of that feeling of separation, that sense of being this like limited, isolated self.
Yes. Recognizing that true freedom comes from realizing, hey, we're not our possessions, our roles, even our experiences. We're the awareness that's witnessing it all.
Makes sense. An internal shift, not necessarily a change in what's happening around us. But speaking of internal shifts, I'm curious about this whole concept of karma. How does that fit into all of this?
Karma, yeah. It can be tricky. People often see it as this rigid law of cause and effect,
Yeah.
Do bad things, get bad results. Do good things, get good results.
It's like a cosmic point system.
Right. But Ramana Maharshi actually had a different take on it. He taught that karma is basically a creation of the ego, that belief that we're the doers of our actions, separate from the flow of life.
So it's the ego that keeps us stuck in that cycle of cause and effect.
Exactly. And as we start to dissolve the ego, through that self-inquiry, the grip of karma loosens. So we start to act more spontaneously, more aligned with our true nature, instead of from that limited perspective of the ego.
That's pretty radical. Suggests that liberation is ultimately freedom from karma. Freedom from that feeling of being bound by our past actions.
It's radical, and it's empowering,
Mm-hmm.
It means we're not just stuck with some predetermined fate. We have the power to choose awareness in each moment. And by doing that, we free ourselves from those limitations of the past.
So what I'm hearing is living these teachings, it's not about being some perfect saint. It's about bringing that I am awareness into like every little corner about our life.
Absolutely. It's about making choices from that place of peace, clarity, acting with kindness and compassion, and letting go of that need to control every little thing.
Recognizing that inherent unity in all things, even while we're playing all these different roles in this cosmic drama.
Yes. And remember, it's a journey, not a destination. There will be moments of insight, moments of confusion, times where we feel connected, times where we feel lost.
That's reassuring, like we're all just figuring it out as we go along.
Exactly. That's the beauty of it. Always more to discover, more to learn, more to experience.
Well, I think it's time to wrap up this deep dive. What an incredible journey. We covered so much ground, from those basic principles of self-inquiry to like the mind-bending implications of living as the self. What a wild ride.
It has been quite a journey, and it's really just the beginning, right? The real work starts now, in those quiet moments of everyday life.
I'm feeling so inspired and honestly a bit more peaceful than when we started.
That's the power of these teachings. They have this potential to transform us from the inside out.
For all of you listening, I encourage you to take these teachings to heart, explore them, contemplate them, and most importantly, experiment with them in your own life. See what you discover. The journey of self-discovery, it's truly an adventure. It's going into the depths of your own being towards realizing your true nature. And it all starts with that one question: who am I?
Keep asking that question. Keep exploring. Keep diving deeper. Thanks for joining us for this incredible deep dive. Until next time, keep seeking, keep growing, and keep shining.